Some people may find themselves uncomfortable confronting a subordinate's poor performance, especially since some employees get defensive or emotional. Some may also worry about how it can affect their working relationships with colleagues. But confronting the problem is your responsibility as a manager or team leader, and failing to address it will damage your team's morale and prevent it from meeting its goals. In this course on handling poor performers, you'll learn the best way to address employee confrontations, how to create a performance plan, and next steps to follow when someone's performance fails to improve. Let's imagine that your team member, Joe, is performing poorly in his role. He's been missing deadlines due to distractions, gets agitated when others offer constructive feedback, and loses his temper easily. Other team members are getting frustrated with Joe and ask that you speak with him. First, try to understand Joe's problem and any root causes by gathering as much information as possible. Take some time to observe his behavior, and don't just talk to coworkers who complained about him. Talk to some who didn't. You can try to find specific examples of Joe's poor performance by asking, how did Joe behave during the last project you worked on together? What were the consequences of his actions or behaviors? And what are some of the likely causes of Joe's actions or behaviors? Were they caused by a lack of ability or motivation? Personal problems or work overload? Or your own management style? Next, speak to Joe directly. Find a good time to talk that works for both of you, and choose a setting with good natural lighting and comfortable furniture to keep him more relaxed. Once you start the conversation, you can open with a general question like, how have you been? Then, once you've broken the ice, you can lead into, I've noticed that you seem to be having some problems with your work. I'd like to discuss it to see how I can help you. That approach signals to Joe that you've noticed his poor performance, that you're going to hold him accountable for it, and that you want to hear his explanation. It's best to avoid asking why questions that he has to justify, because it can make him uncomfortable and put him on the defensive. You can go on to describe his poor performance using specific examples, like missing deadlines, substandard quality, or inability to adapt to new or unexpected situations. Then you can explain the impact that his poor performance has had on himself, his coworkers, and the organization. There are three likely ways for Joe to respond: agree, get defensive, or become emotional. If he gets defensive, try to stay calm and listen attentively to his explanation. If he gets emotional, give him time to calm down before continuing the conversation. Ask questions that will help you understand his perspective and the possible root causes of his poor performance. You can also ask him what support he needs, since his poor performance could be due to work overload or low morale, which can be caused by multiple factors. Maybe Joe thinks that you don't give him enough support, or maybe he's having personal problems. It's also possible he hasn't been given enough instruction or training for his role. But by showing your support for him, you're giving Joe a chance to change himself and letting him know that he isn't alone, because you're there to lead the way for him. Joe will be more likely to commit himself to improving his performance, and you won't have to take drastic action like firing him. He can keep his job, and you can spare yourself the time and effort it would have taken to find, vet, and hire his replacement.